Something strange just showed up in the newest government population data, and almost every headline about it got the story exactly backward. Last year, the number of Americans moving into Florida from other states, minus the number leaving, came to 58,411 people. This year, that same number fell to 22,517. That is a drop of about 61% in a single year. And the way it is being reported, you would think the Great Florida Rush is finally over, that people are giving up on the state and going home. So let me stop you right there, in the first 30 seconds before you draw the wrong conclusion, because the truth is far more interesting and it changes where you should be looking to buy. Florida is still growing. It added residents last year. This is not a story about people fleeing the state. It is a story about people fleeing certain parts of the state and pouring into others, and the gap between those two groups is enormous. Here's the number that proves it. 8 Florida counties, just 8, lost a combined 163,086 residents to people moving away last year. That is not a slowdown, that is an exodus. And yet the entire state still finished the year up by that 22,517. Sit with what that means. 8 counties hemorrhaged 163,000 people, and Florida still grew, which means the rest of the state did not just absorb every single one of those people, it absorbed all of them and then added more on top. They did not leave Florida. They moved down the street to a cheaper part of the same state. And today, I'm going to show you the 8 counties they left, counted down from 8 to 1, exactly why each place stopped working for the people who already lived there, and then the 3 counties where nearly all of them went. Because once you see the pattern, you will understand the single most important trend in Florida real estate right now, and you will know precisely which side of it you want to be standing on. One quick note before we start. This is county-level data, straight from the Census Bureau. So when I say a county is losing people, understand that individual cities inside it can still be growing. Keep that distinction in your pocket because it matters more than you would think, especially at number 1. Let me name the villain, because it is not what the doom headlines are selling you. The villain is not hurricanes, and it is not insurance, and it is not some vague sense that Florida is finished. The villain is the price ladder. Over the last 5 years, the most desirable Florida counties priced their own residents right out of the neighborhoods those residents grew up in. And when a longtime local can no longer afford the county they live in, they do not usually leave the state they love and the family they have nearby. They slide one rung down the ladder to the next county over, where the same paycheck buys twice the house. Every county on this list is a county that got too expensive for its own people, and every destination at the end is a county that was still cheap enough to catch them. That is the whole engine. Expensive Florida is exporting its residents to cheap Florida, and it is happening at a scale nobody is talking about. 2 quick notes on my numbers so you can check every one of them yourself. The migration figures come straight from the Census Bureau's newest county estimates, the primary file, not somebody's summary of it. And every home value I give you is the Zillow typical home value for that county, current this year, so you can pull it up and see the gap for yourself. When you set the county someone is leaving next to the county they are moving to on Zillow, the ladder is not a theory. It is right there on the screen, $100,000 or more between one rung and the next. Number 8 is Monroe County, and Monroe is the perfect place to start because its raw number looks almost trivial until you understand it. Monroe lost 1,931 residents to migration last year. That sounds tiny next to the giants coming later. But Monroe County is the Florida Keys, and only about 80,000 people live in the entire county. Losing 1,900 people out of 80,000 is a far deeper cut per person than a big county losing 10 times as many. And the reason is the most extreme version of the villain in the whole state. The typical home in Monroe County is worth $960,677, nearly $1 million for the typical home, not the fancy one. The people who cook the food, teach the kids, and run the boats in the Keys simply cannot live there anymore. Monroe is not losing tourists. It is losing its workforce, priced out of paradise one household at a time, and most of them are moving up to the mainland where a home costs a third as much. And Monroe sets the tone for everything that follows because it makes the rule impossible to miss. A place does not lose people because it got worse. The Keys did not get uglier. The water is just as blue. Monroe is losing people precisely because it got more desirable enough that the price of staying finally outran what an ordinary working person earns. That is the cruel twist running through this entire list. The more a Florida county succeeds, the more it prices out the very people who made it work, and the more of them it quietly ships up the road to somewhere cheaper. Number 7 is Collier County, home to Naples, and Collier lost 2,337 residents. This is Gulf Coast luxury, some of the most expensive real estate on Florida's west coast, where the typical home runs $556,123. And notice something the headlines miss. Collier's home values actually fell last year, down about 4%. So even as prices softened, people kept leaving, which tells you the price never came down far enough to matter to a normal family. A 4% discount on a home well over $500,000 is still a home well over $500,000. Collier is a county built increasingly for second home buyers and the wealthy, and the working families who cannot compete with cash offers are doing the sensible thing and moving inland, where they can actually own something. Number 6 is Pinellas County, and Pinellas deserves your full attention, because on the raw migration number, it looks like a mid-tier entry, and it is actually the most alarming story on this entire list. Pinellas lost 9,203 residents to migration, but here's what makes it different from every other county here. Pinellas is a peninsula packed tight with people, one of the most densely populated counties in the state, and it got almost no international arrivals to cushion the loss, only about 2,600. So when you add everything up, Pinellas did not just grow more slowly, it actually shrank. Its total population fell by nearly 12,000 people, the largest outright population loss of any county in Florida, and it did that on barely a third of the population of the giant at number 1. If you want to know what a county genuinely emptying out looks like in real terms per person, it is not Miami, it is Pinellas. The typical home there at $368,000 is not even the most expensive on this list, which makes the exodus all the more telling. When people leave a place that is not the priciest option, it is because the value equation broke. And just across the bay, there are counties offering more house for less. And if this is already refrawing how you see the Florida map, do me a quick favor and tap the like button. It genuinely helps push this in front of the next person trying to figure out where to actually buy, and that is the entire reason I make these. Number 5 is Palm Beach County, and now we start climbing into the truly large numbers. Palm Beach lost 11,953 residents last year. This is Florida's glittering southeast coast, the county of oceanfront estates and famous zip codes, where the typical home is worth $467,365. And Palm Beach shows you that the latter operates at every level. It is losing its middle and working class residents to counties further north and west, the same way the Keys loses its workforce. The polo set is not going anywhere, but the person who services the pool, manages the restaurant, and teaches at the local school is quietly being pushed out, because a county that revolves around wealth eventually has no room left for the people who make it run. They are not leaving the state. They are leaving the zip code they can no longer afford. And they tend to move in two directions, either north up the Treasure Coast towards St. Lucie and beyond, or inland and up into the center of the state, chasing the same thing everyone on this list is chasing, a home where the monthly number finally makes sense. Number 4 is Hillsborough County, the heart of Tampa, and Hillsborough lost 15,620 residents. Now the story shifts from coastal luxury to a major metro engine simply getting too expensive for its own workforce. Tampa boomed for years, and with the boom came prices until the typical home hit $377,787, and the math stopped working for a lot of the families who built the place. And here is where the pattern starts to reveal its destination. So remember this county, because Hillsborough's departing residents are not scattering randomly across the country. A great many of them are moving one county to the east, into a county we will get to at the end, where their Tampa paycheck suddenly stretches into a house with a yard. Hold on to that thread, and you can watch the pressure building in the market data too. On Redfin's numbers, homes across the Tampa metro are sitting longer before they sell, and a growing share of sellers are cutting their asking price, which is exactly what you would expect when the local buyers who used to compete for those homes are quietly packing up and leaving for cheaper ground one county over. Number 3 is Orange County, home to Orlando, and Orange lost 20,271 residents last year. This is one of the most famous cities in the world, the tourism capital of the state, and it is exporting its own people at a staggering rate. The typical Orange County home now runs $403,694, and the theme park economy, for all its jobs, is not one that pays most workers enough to comfortably own at that price. So the people who make Orlando run are doing exactly what the people in Tampa are doing. They are moving to a neighboring county where a home costs $100,000 less and commuting back in. Orange and Hillsborough together, the two great metro engines of Central Florida, are quietly pumping their residents into the same handful of cheaper counties nearby, and you're about to see exactly where. And here's the question I want you holding as we reach the top 2, because it is the whole point of this video. If entire counties are bleeding residents and the state is still growing, then someone somewhere is catching every single one of those people and more. Where? Keep watching, because the answer is the most important thing I will tell you today. Number 2 is Broward County, home to Fort Lauderdale, and the numbers here become genuinely hard to comprehend. Broward lost 29,517 residents to migration last year. That is nearly 30,000 people gone from a single county in a single year. The typical home in Broward sits at $423,097, and it is wedged between two of the most expensive markets in the state, which leaves its middle-class residents squeezed from every direction. Broward has been quietly losing residents to other Florida counties for years, even back during the boom, and it was only enormous international arrivals that kept the total positive. Now, even that is not enough. The people leaving Broward are climbing the ladder in reverse, out of a southeast Florida that has simply become too expensive to raise a family in, heading for the middle of the state. And understanding exactly this, which Florida counties are quietly winning and which ones are quietly emptying, is the whole reason the Florida Buy and Avoid list for 2026 exists. It lays out 40 Florida towns, 20 to buy and 20 to avoid, in one place, with the migration and the affordability already checked on every single one. The link is sitting in the description right below this video. If you want the full map before you commit to anywhere, that is where it lives. And that brings us to number 1, and it is the biggest population story in Florida in more than 30 years, Miami-Dade County. Last year, Miami-Dade lost 72,254 residents to domestic migration, 72,000 people moving out of one county to other parts of Florida and other states. To put that in perspective, that single county's loss is larger than the entire net migration gain of the whole state. But here is the detail that makes Miami-Dade the perfect flagship for this story, the thing that proves the villain beyond any argument. Miami-Dade also took in 54,204 international arrivals last year. That is the largest international inflow of any county in Florida, an enormous wave of new residents from around the world. And it still was not enough. The county still shrank overall, its first real population decline in more than 3 decades, going back to the year after Hurricane Andrew. Think about what that means. The single most powerful magnet for international migration in the entire state is losing its own longtime residents faster than the entire world can replace them. The typical home in Miami-Dade is worth $520,887. And for the families who have lived there for generations, who built the culture that makes Miami magnetic in the first place, that number is simply the end of the road. Miami is not being abandoned. It is being swapped out, one longtime local leaving for the middle of the state as one newcomer from abroad arrives to take their place. So now, let me answer the question the title actually asked. Where did they all go? Because this is the part that turns a sad story into a useful one. 3 counties in the middle of Florida absorb the overwhelming share of this migration. And if you understand why, you understand where the smart money is quietly moving right now. The first is Polk County, sitting right between Tampa and Orlando, which gained 18,752 residents last year. Polk has now ranked in the top 5 counties in the entire United States for people moving in every single year, 5 years running. Let that sink in. not the top 5 in Florida, the top 5 in the country out of more than 3,000 counties 5 years in a row. This is not a fluke or a single good year. It is the most consistent migration magnet in America, and almost nobody outside the state has heard of it. And here is why it matters so much. The typical home in Polk County is worth $298,611. Now hold that against Miami-Dade at $520,000, or Orange at $403,000, or Hillsborough at $377,000. Polk is the latter made literal. It sits in the exact geographic middle between the two metros bleeding the most people, Orlando and Tampa, and it offers those people a home for $100,000 less than the county they are leaving. The government's own tax migration records close the loop completely. Roughly 58 to 59% of the people moving into Polk came from other Florida counties, not from out of state, and they came most heavily from Orange, from Hillsborough, and from Osceola. Read that again. Orange is number 3 on our loss list. Hillsborough is number 4. And Polk is precisely where their people went. The second destination is Pasco County, just north of Tampa, which gained 18,078 residents. Pasco is the release valve for the entire Tampa Bay region. As Hillsborough and Pinellas got too expensive, Pasco, with a typical home around $331,000, caught the overflow. The same tax records show most of Pasco's newcomers came from elsewhere in Florida too, overwhelmingly from the rest of Tampa Bay. These are not out-of-state transplants chasing the sun. These are Tampa families moving 20 minutes north to afford a house. And the third is Marion County, built around Ocala, which gained 15,971 residents. Marion is horse country in the north-central part of the state, with a typical home around $273,000, the cheapest of the 3 destinations. It has been quietly pulling people in from Lake Sumter, Citrus, and Alachua counties, the surrounding region, plus a steady stream of retirees drawn by the low prices and the horse country quiet. Ocala has, at points, posted one of the fastest population growth rates of any metro area in the entire country, which for a place most Americans could not find on a map tells you everything about how powerful the affordability pull has become. Together, these 3 counties, Polk, Pasco, and Marion, absorbed 52,801 people last year. The coast emptied a rung, and the middle of the state filled up. And here is what that means if you are trying to decide where to put your money. Population is the slowest, most stubborn, most reliable force in all of real estate. Prices swing up and down with interest rates and insurance and headlines, but people moving in is a tide, and it does not turn on a dime. When more than 50,000 people relocate into 3 counties in a single year, and the government's own records show most of them came from the expensive counties right next door, that is not a trend that reverses next quarter. That is the demand base for the next decade quietly assembling itself in the middle of the state, while everyone else is staring at the coast wondering why prices there feel stuck. The people already voted with their moving trucks. The question is whether you were watching where they parked them. Now, the honest caveat, and it matters as much as anything I have said, because I promised you the real picture and not a scary one. Florida is not in decline. Let me say it as plainly as I can. The state grew last year. 15 counties posted losses, yes, but far more counties gained, and the overall population went up. This is redistribution, not a failing market. The people leaving the coast are not disappearing. They are relocating inside the same state, and every dollar of demand that leaves Miami-Dade shows up again in Polk. So if you own on the coast, this does not mean run. And if you are thinking of buying inland, understand this too. Even these booming destination counties saw their home values dip slightly last year, Polk down about 3%, Pasco and Marion similar. The reason to look at these places is not that prices are shooting up. It is that the price level is low enough to catch an entire state's worth of priced out families, and that steady, relentless demand is the most durable force in real estate there is. There is one more wrinkle worth knowing because someone always raises it. Not every coastal county is losing people. Lee County, over on the Gulf, actually gained residents last year even as its home prices fell. That looks like it breaks the pattern until you realize it proves it. Lee's prices dropped far enough, fast enough, that it flipped from an expensive county into a cheap one, and cheap coastal inventory started pulling buyers back in. Same villain, same ladder, just a county that slid down a rung and started catching people instead of losing them. The rule holds. Price is the whole story. So here's my question for you, and I read every single one of these. Which of these counties are you watching, or are you sitting in one of them right now, feeling the squeeze, thinking about making the move inland yourself? Tell me in the comments which county you are in and where you would go, because there are people watching right now doing the exact same math, and hearing it from someone living it is worth more than anything I can put on a chart. And if this was useful, the video you want next is the one on the Florida towns quietly hitting brand new record highs this year, because I will give you one guess where almost all of them are, and it is not on the coast. Go watch that one next, and you will see the other half of this exact story. And subscribe to FloridaPulse, because I track these county-by-county numbers every single month, watching both the census migration data and what Zillow and Redfin show on prices, and this ladder is still shifting, which means the next set of winners and losers is already forming. We will see you in the next one.